Hello, and thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about the Simforge Mk1 Pedal set. On paper, these may seem like a great deal, but in reality, things turn out a little bit different. So let's get into it. Simforge lists these pedals for about $350 US, but once you factor in the base plate and everything else, you could be paying upwards of $500. For the purpose of this review, we're going to consider these pedals to be a sub $500 pedal set. I paid about $450 for my configuration shipped. For a pedal set at this price point, you get everything really you'd expect. Full metal construction, Hall sensors on your accelerator and clutch, an 80 kilogram load cell, and tons of adjustability. To top it all off, I have absolutely no concerns about the longevity of these pedals. So you may be asking at this point, why things don't quite line up with reality. And I'll get to that, but first I'd like to actually tell you some of the good stuff about these pedals. So let's start off with the adjustability, and boy is there a lot of it. Each pedal plate has a grid of holes that you can use, as well as sliders on the back. The only issue is that these pedal plates are massive. Each pedal has an adjustable stop point, so you can set the throw to exactly what you want. You can adjust the preload and leverage of these pedals just by adjusting a few bolts. The operation angle is easily adjustable, and you can even mount these inverted. The clutch even has a bite point adjustment, though I will have to point out here that the travel adjustment is a bit of a throwaway since the bite point can actually be completely eliminated. This is just what you'd expect with this style mechanism. The brake comes with a nice array of polyurethane bushings. You should be able to adjust these pedals to however you want. There's tons of headroom with the brake, so you should be able to simulate some of those incredibly high pressure brake systems. The software is using Velt's DiView. It's kludgy, but it works. It's actually a great configuration tool just to have on hand with any controller, but it is absolutely going to be where you spend the first couple minutes working with these pedals. This does reveal one of the big issues. You don't actually get that 16 and 24-bit resolution. You do get a couple thousand values out of each pedal, but it's nowhere near the advertised resolution due to the fact that you're not going to be using the full span of what these sensors can offer. Even with all these adjustments, I never quite found myself comfortable with these pedals. I believe one of the biggest issues was the fact that they were just too big. My feet fit a US size 9, which puts me somewhat in the smaller average category. A size 16 foot would probably feel right at home with these pedals. Enough about the construction of these pedals. Let's actually get into the user experience. Taking them out of the box and setting them up, the first two observations I had were the travel is not smooth and they squeak. Now, both of these issues are easily solved. In fact, I had the solution right on hand. Just some dielectric grease or any sort of lubricant that is not going to break down any of the parts used in the construction of these pedals. Before your set arrive, be sure to have some lubricant on hand, such as PTFE or dielectric lube, so that you can actually get these pedals functioning nicely. Unfortunately, the other thing that I'm going to have to recommend that you have on hand if you do so plan on ordering these pedals is a soldering iron. The board I received was missing soldering joints, and other soldering joints were just cold, which meant that they could break at a later point in time. It was also caked in flux, which you should clean off if you don't want the board to corrode. The result for me was a board that wasn't reading one of the pedals, and this was due to two factors. Not only did the board need to be repaired by me, but it also had a bad Ethernet cable. Unfortunately, the only conclusion that I can make with these boards being built by hand is that they don't actually test them before they send them out. And that's very unfortunate when they're in India. I was able to remedy these pedals within a few hours of ownership, but I wouldn't really expect that for every person. Assuming that you got a fully working pedal set, how do they actually feel to use? Well, they're not the best. The accelerator is fine. It does have a little bit of an inconsistency with its pressure, but I just overall didn't feel like it was much of an improvement over the potentiometer-based T3PA that I was previously using. The clutch was the highlight for me in some ways. It did feel really nice having that actual bite point that you could feel out. However, I did miss a large amount of my shifting when I was in games like Dirt Rally, where I was frantically shifting gears all the time. I just found that the throw was a little bit too much for my preferences. Now let's take a moment to talk about the most important part of any pedal set, and that would be the brake. While the feel is actually quite good for the brake, it suffers from several idiosyncrasies that really let it down. The transition between the different stages of resistance is actually quite smooth. Due to the choice of using a metal spacer for one of the components, the pedals do always feel a little scratchy no matter how well you lubricate them. I wasn't ever quite able to find a reliable braking point where the wheels would lock up. When you apply pressure to these pedals very quickly, what can often happen is that they will actually read full pressure and then bounce back to what you expect the pressure to really be. Unfortunately, they don't just stop there. They continue to jump around and even decrease without you actually changing your input at all. To add insult to injury, a lot of modern pedals are starting to save the calibration to the hardware itself rather than relying on Windows. This means that Windows can screw up that configuration and you will have to recalibrate them. Not that that really matters because I ended up having to recalibrate these pedals every couple days. So, conclusion time here. With all the issues that I experienced with these pedals, I simply can't recommend them. Now, some of these issues will be improved in the future, such as circuit board reliability, as they are changing their manufacturing process in the future, as I was assured, but I can only judge this product based on how I received it. When you're paying a premium like you are for these pedals, you should expect a little bit of reliability, and you're just not getting that here. Reliable braking is key, as any sim racer will tell you. Unfortunately, that's not a feature of these pedals either. I hate to be so negative about a product from such a passionate company. The people at Simforge do care about their product, and they do try to support it as best they can, but they definitely missed the mark here and really need to revise how they're actually doing things. On that note, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. I have several other reviews in the works right now for various other components that I've picked up recently, so please stick around.